All right, well, thank you everyone for coming. This is week 2 of the self-publishing class, and Randy Kuckuck is here from Publish Next. And as you know, he was here a year ago, so this is round 2, and there's some slight tweaks to it, but it's an amazing program. And I just think that it's going to be, just like doing your own video, it's going to be one of the primary marketing tools, you know, that are be coming up in the next 5 years. So, you know, if you're able to actually get something published, like I keep kicking myself to do, you're going to be way ahead of the game. And does anybody have any goals right now for getting something published by the end of the month? I mean, like really, right now, sort of a goal? Anyone? Well, so Izzy was here last week, and he said that he kind of pulled it all together in about 3 weeks because he had a real good reason for doing it, right? He was going to a trade show, and it made a difference if he had something to publish, and the idea hadn't presented itself until about 3 weeks into it. So I'm just throwing that out there. If you do come up with a goal of getting something published, it doesn't have to be something physical. It could be an ebook, and it could be just your first try. And you can always iterate on it and make it better over time. So it'd be pretty cool if we could get some folks in here to say, yep, I'm in, I'm going to publish something by the end of the month. And maybe that'll be me too, but I'm going on vacation for a week, so.
Slacker.
I know, I'm total slacker. All right, so that was my next announcement, is that I will not be here next week. However, you're in great hands, and you're going to get the design version next week, right?
Right.
So that's a not to miss. I remember so this will be both interior design and cover design. And this is where it will really help a lot if you kind of go for some outside expertise to get this done, because it'll just up the professionalism of your book, and you can probably escape that self-published look if you're willing to do that. And if you're not, then at least there'll be some great examples of, you know, sort of the bar to hit and sort of a checklist of things that you can do. So with that, I think I can hand it over to Randy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leslie. Okay, brief background on myself. I've been in the book business in different ways for almost 30 years. I've been a publisher, a book printer, did information about books, reviews, bios, and after all of that, I still don't know anything about book publishing, but we'll try to learn something today together. How many of you are thinking about doing a book for your business? That's what you're thinking about. Okay. How many of you are thinking about doing a memoir or something kind of personal? Okay. Anybody else have what's your...
I have a travel book that was published, I self-published in book, physical form. I want to turn into an ebook.
Okay. Okay. A lot of photographs and...
Actually, line drawings.
Line drawings? Okay. Anything else? Okay. I'd just like to know a little bit about where you are all at so that I can try to make sure I tailor my comments to what your interests are and not just what my interests are. Because I like to talk about me, but we'll talk about you today. So first we're going to talk a little bit about what is book publishing. The title talked about the economics of publishing, but we're going to go a little more into really what is publishing, what historically has been publishing and what has changed. We are going to talk a little bit about the self-publishing services that are out there. Some of you may have used them, may be thinking about using some of them, so I'll run through some of the different services that are out there and how they differ, what they offer, what you need to be aware of. And then lastly, the printing options and really what the costs are for doing some books. So we will get to the economics, but I want to lay some groundwork first on what we're talking about. So most people think that publishing a book is easy. You get an idea. You all have an idea for a book. You sit down and you write it. This is what Karen looks like. Here, Karen and Trey are part of my staff. Karen will be doing the design work next week. Trey, if you were here, we talked about editing last week with Dave. Dave was here, but he's left. Yeah, so you sit down, you start writing your book, then you find an agent. Shakespeare had to go find an agent to get his book published. And then you find a publisher and your book's done. It's real simple, right? Well, actually, it looks more like this. You get an idea, and if you're Stephen King or Lady Gaga, the book's approved and goes right to press. So that's, you know, but if not, then you got to talk to, vet your idea with a whole bunch of people. The editor comes back with changes, and eventually the editor quits and goes and writes a book themselves, and it just goes around in circles, and 2 years later you don't have a book done. That's sort of the traditional publishing process with, a big publishing company. But in all that, what does a publisher do? Traditionally, the big role of the publisher, and if you ask any publisher, this is what's missing in self-publishing, is they're the gatekeeper. They decide if the book's good enough to be published. That's, critical. We can't have bad books out there in the market. That's just terrible. Ask any traditional publisher and they'll tell you that this is a critical function. Once they accept a manuscript, they're going to rewrite it for you. They're going to edit it, they're going to change it, they're going to make it what they think is more saleable, more in line with what is commercially viable. Design. They're going to do the cover design, the interior design, they're going to do all the layout, make sure it looks like a book. Then they'll get it printed. My staff thinks that I was an apprentice to Gutenberg, but I don't go quite that far back in printing. There's different ways of printing today. You can do traditional offset printing, which is for longer runs, 1,000 copies and above. You can do what we refer to as short run, which is usually done on a digital basis, but that's anywhere from 200 copies to 1,000 copies. And then you can do print on demand, which is just another way of digital printing something, but it's an inline process that is very cut and dried, and they'll do anything from 1 book to 100 books and just boom, boom, boom. They're done. But there's limitations to that because to make it very efficient, they can only do a couple different trim sizes. They can only do 2 papers and so on. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. Then you have to do marketing. You got to, develop the market for your book. The book doesn't sell itself. You have to develop the demand for it. That's a critical piece that a lot of people don't realize, that you just can't put a book up on Amazon and have it sell unless you're Stephen King. But there's already a demand for his books. He created that demand a long time ago. In 2 weeks, the session is going to be about marketing, some different ways to do book marketing. And so because that's a critical part that a lot of people skip when they're thinking about doing a book. If you're doing a book for your own business, that may be a marketing piece in itself that you're going to use in your business marketing, which therefore you're not worried about marketing the book per se, you're concerned about how you're going to use that book to market your business. So the approach is a little bit different, but you still have to do some marketing in relation to it. And finally, sales and distribution. Okay, you've got the books, you designed it, you start marketing it. How are you going to get it out there to be sold? How does it get onto Amazon? How does it get the local bookstore? We'll talk about all that in a little bit. But when you decide to self-publish, what changes? Really the only thing that changes, as I mentioned, is that you are now doing all these functions, and in fact you're still acting as the gatekeeper, but most people skip that function. They say, okay, my book's good enough to be published, I don't need someone telling me that's good enough, so away we go, we're going to publish a book. But you still have to do everything else. If you don't do everything else, don't publish your book. If you don't edit it, if you don't design it, and if you don't market it, you might as well not do the book. So, once again, what does a publisher do? Editing. An editor, a book will cost anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 or more to be edited. Once you're done writing it, always go to a third party to get it edited. Don't go to your English teacher or your nephew who's an English major, unless your nephew happens to be Trey, then that's fine. But you need an editor to work on the book. Okay, everything from looking at the content and how well it flows, down to doing the copy editing to make sure the grammar and punctuation and everything works well. once again, how much you invest in the editing is really going to depend upon how good of a writer you are in the first place, and who you can find to edit it. You don't have to spend a lot of money to edit the book, but I always recommend you find an editor. They talked a lot about that last week, so we won't talk about that too much more. I'll come back to it one more time, but design the cover. Get some professional help in designing the cover. Don't just use a graphic artist. Use someone that actually knows book design. There's key elements in designing a book that just your average graphic artist won't know. They won't understand how to. Your cover is the primary marketing piece for your book. That's going to be every place. It's going to be online. It's going to be the one thing that either sells or turns people off before they buy your book. So you have to have a good cover design. You can get a good cover design for under $1,000. If you want custom photography, if you want lots of different custom design, you can spend $5,000 or more for a cover. But you can get a good cover design for under $1,000. If it's a really simple business book, stick with just nice fonts. You don't do anything fancy with the book. Less is better if it's a straight business book. Typesetting. The interior design of the book, I say $1,000 and up. You can practically get it done less. Next week we'll show you how you can do it yourself in Word and actually get it done totally by yourself for free. But if you're going out to have it done, you can plan on spending close to $1,000 to get the interior design. I was going to grab a book that had some little higher design features in it, like call outs and a lot of graphics and stuff. If you're doing that, you're probably going to want to hire someone to do it. Call outs is where there's a paragraph or a sentence pulled off and highlighted, either in a box or just larger font. Those are types of things in a business book that really make a difference in the book. But if you're going to do that, you got to do it well, and you may then want to invest in having a designer design it. Printing the books. If you're going to do an offset run of books, probably going to do 1,000 copies, it's probably going to cost you about $3,000. You can do print on demand and not invest anything in the printing, and that's totally acceptable and is a good way to go. But if you're going to actually do a print run where you're going to have a bunch of books in your basement, then it's going to cost you about $3,000. Marketing. Even if you just do business cards, set up your blog and your website, and maybe some bookmarks, you're going to invest $500 at least in marketing your book. If you then do, start running, Google ads or running some specialized advertising, you're going to spend much more. If you hire a publicity firm that's going to go out and try to get you speaking engagements and everything else, we have publicity firms that run from $3,000 to $30,000 for helping you with publicity on your book. But you can market it yourself very reasonably, and that's a discussion that's going to take place in 2 weeks. Sales. The cost of sales depends upon how you sell it. We'll talk about that more in a minute, and same with distribution. So you probably can't read that, but this is the critical thing. I want to make sure you looked at it closely. When an author decides to self-publish, they're no longer an author. They're a publisher. Stop thinking about yourself as an author. So I made it hard to read, so you'd read it really and remember it. Once you decide to self-publish, stop thinking about yourself as an author. You got to start thinking about yourself as a publisher and do all the things we've been talking about. I'm going through this really fast because this is actually about a 4-hour seminar, but I'm going to try to condense it. And usually I got 3 hours, right? Okay, so the biggest mistakes people make when they're self-publishing: they don't edit the book properly. I'm going to read you one sentence out of this book. Yeah, you can see the cover. So, your opponent will most certainly refuse to give up his or her position in the same way that he or she will refuse to disbelieve his or her own individual experience were real, or that he or she has no right to have the free will to love or fear things of his or her own choosing. Okay.
Persuasive.
If you're his or her, you got it. It needs editing. The book looks good and everything else, but once you get into it a little bit, there's some issues with the editing. I'll pick up a book in the first paragraph. There'll be, grammatical errors. It doesn't matter how well the content is. If there's grammatical errors in it, people will stop reading it. I've talked to book reviewers that say that, when they get to the 5th error in the book, they stop reading. So if you're taking your book out for review, know that people are going to stop reading when they find errors. We talked about editing last week. Nothing is more important in a book than the content. Everything else is secondary. If you don't have good content, once again, you don't have a good book. Poor cover design. So I'll show you up here a couple. This is a cover that was submitted to us. It's got some problems. How many of you like the traffic light? Yeah, you like that? Yeah. What's the title of this book? It's race power. It's race power politics. Not sure about what. I don't even know who wrote it. It's as told by Marcel Reed, forward by. It's just a mess. So we suggested some very modest changes to it to make it stand out more. We didn't want he really liked that cover, so we didn't want it to change it dramatically, but we wanted to make some changes. Unfortunately, he didn't like our changes, and he went with the first one. Yeah. Yeah, of course. We still put everything on there that he had on there, but you could I quickly identify the title. This is an extremely strong title. There are some ways that there are some. Lulu has a title ranking, and then there's also there's a journalist website, which I don't remember the name of it right now, that you can put in a headline ranking, which is the same as a title. You put in your title, and it tells you how strong it is. This is the strongest title I've ever seen, because it's got powerful words. Race, power, politics. I mean, there's no stronger words than that. You want action words. You want words that stir emotion. Those do it. Give you a couple more covers. We're going to be talking about covers next week. This is just, sort of get what your appetite is, what you wanted to look at. What do you think of this cover? Okay, it looks very amateurish to me. He actually paid really good money to have this cover done.
Who did it?
You probably wouldn't. They're in Colorado. You probably wouldn't come across him. It's just not good. It just looks like it's a space station and stuff. The book is actually very interesting. Okay. Now, on top of it, he did French flaps on the cover. He did 2-color printing throughout the book. Actually, 4-color, not just 2-color, 4-color. He spent a lot of money on this book. Okay, I would not pick this book up because of the cover. Okay.
What's the title?
What if we made space travel practical? It's not a real strong title either. Okay, so don't do this. The cover, it doesn't look serious. And this is a serious book. He's really trying to explore. Yeah, it looks kind of like Jetson-y, cartoonish. It just, yeah.
But I think also it doesn't really create a focus. Like you've got too many text styles that are too close together, and so you're not drawing attention to any one thing first.
The problem is you're trying to figure out what the cover is instead of reading the title. And like you said, the title is hard to read. Remember, most books they are read, the covers are looked at online in a, 1 inch by 1.5 inch thumbnail. Okay, you got to be able to read it very quickly, and at that size, you would never figure out what this book is about. Anybody want to guess what this book is about?
Religion?
Religion? It looks kind of like a prayer book, something kind of a, a journal, or,
What's the title?
The title is Contend Earnestly for the Faith. It's a heavy theological discussion on Christian apologetics. Okay? This is not a heavy theological discussion cover. Yeah, this looks like a prayer book, something, yeah. Just totally inappropriate. This was actually done by Publish America, and I will.
Better than the last one, though.
It is in some ways, but it's a nice cover, but it's totally inappropriate for the book. It doesn't tell you it's a heavy theological discussion. You think it's something sort of light and inspirational. The publishing company that was used was Publish America. I have this book because he wants to redo it. Okay, I don't talk bad about most publishing companies. Don't ever use Publish America.
How much did you spend?
Oh, this is free.
They didn't charge him at all?
No, I'll come back to that later, but yeah. Yeah, Publish America, their thing is the books they do are free. Okay, so bad interior layout. Real quick, this is the half title. This is normally a half title page. It should just be the title of the book. Okay, you don't start numbering page 1 and you don't have a header on it. This is a copyright page. Copyright page, there's a specific formatting for the copyright page. Once again, there's no page number on it. This should be the full title page, which is almost what this is, but once again, there should be no page number. These things are in the wrong order. This is dedication. The dedication should be a right-hand page, not a left-hand page. It should be opposite the copyright page, and so on.
Who did that?
This was actually done through CreateSpace.
Oh, that's crazy. Oh, whoops.
Yes, this is done through CreateSpace. But you have to understand, CreateSpace prints what you give them.
Yeah, they did.
Okay, and that's why next week Karen will be talking about how to avoid ending up with something like this. Because you want unnumbered pages, you want pages with Roman numerals, and then your first page of the book is page 1.
So if it's done properly, they will print it properly?
Absolutely. Yep. This one was done by CreateSpace.
What is the name you're saying?
CreateSpace, it's an Amazon company. This one is better. Okay. The problem with this one is, look at the margins. Okay. Yeah. But it's got some good things to it, but the margins are totally wrong. But once again, it's what you give them. So that's what we're going to talk next week about, how to give them what you want and get back what you want. But this one is, the cover's actually pretty good on this one. I like it. But he had it professionally done. He had the cover professionally done and submit it to CreateSpace. Okay? In the range that we're talking about, under $1,000. And that was a local artist. Going back to this cover, is anything wrong with this cover?
Oh, whoops.
The title and author's name are on it twice. Yeah. The artwork is interesting.
I love the artwork.
Yeah, but it's a very basic design, and once again, they use a template, and they put the title and author's name on twice. Yeah. Yeah. So.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there some place where there's like a template or a way to know which page comes after which of the copyright?
Yeah, we'll talk about that next week, and we'll actually do a handout on it, but it's in the Chicago Manual style.
Oh.
They actually list it. Does anybody know who Guy Kawasaki is?
Yeah.
And he just did a book called Ape, author, publisher, entrepreneur. Okay, it's a decent book on self-publishing. In the middle, in that book, he does list how the book should be laid out in the front matter. Then take a look at how his book is laid out in the front matter. It's not laid out properly. Yeah. And of course, the book's selling thousands and thousands. I've heard him speak 4 times this year at publishing conferences because he's on the circuit this year. So he's getting paid, you know, a couple $1,000s as keynote speaker, selling hundreds of his books, and you know, everybody thinks he's, you know, the messiah in self-publishing, but he knows nothing about publishing.
Who was his publisher?
He published himself through CreateSpace.
So he didn't hire someone.
You know, and his whole idea is that you can do it yourself, which you can, but just do it right.
What about all the one-word titles, like the new one is subliminal, influence?
Titles need to interest you in the book and tell you a little bit about what it is. We use a lot of subtitles, so we'll use a title that catches your attention and a subtitle to explain it. Okay, I'm going to go on. We'll stop a couple times for questions. So, publishing a book's easy. You write it, you edit it, you design it, you learn how to properly lay out the text, you obtain your ISBNs, you decide how to print it, you arrange for distribution, you market the book so people can find it, and you obtain reviews on it. You manage the whole process. You are a publisher. So once you decide to self-publish, you are a publisher. Or you can find someone to help you do it. Okay. So, little quiz. The average self-published book sells about how many copies? 25, 99, 256, 497. Actually, it's 99. Yeah.
You've got more friends than 25, right?
Yeah. But you got to remember, there are self-published books that sell in the millions. Okay? There really are. There's a lot of self-published books that sell 5 copies or 10 copies. The average book published by a big 6 publisher, that's the big, usually I do this whole discussion about who the big 6 are, but anyway, the big 6 publishers control about 80% of the book market. What does their average book sell? 4,500 copies. So a goal as a self-published author is to try to get close to that. But remember, if your book, and I don't have this quiz in there, but a bestseller is 100,000 copies. Sometimes bestseller is 50,000 copies. So if someone says, if I'm talking to an author and I say, well, what's your market? How many copies do you think you're going to sell? If they sell, oh, millions, or everybody's going to want to read it, we won't even work with them because their expectations are just so far out of line that it just doesn't work. So I had questions here, but we've already done them, so we'll keep right on going. Okay, self-publishing services. How many of you have used a self-publishing service?
Well, I've talked to many.
Okay, who have you?
I worked with my dad many years ago in the early days. We used iUniverse.
Okay. Somebody else?
I've talked to many of them.
Okay.
Dorrance and...
Dorrance is an old line vanity publisher, now a self-publishing service.
And then there's
Tate.
one I'm going with, and I can't think of their name.
Okay. Somebody else? Okay. So this isn't all of them, but this is a lot of the big ones. So we'll talk a little bit about some of them. And as I talk about, I'll tell you kind of how they work and what differentiates them. If you have any specific questions about them, I can probably answer your questions because before I started my business, I spent a year doing due diligence and researching it, and I still have to keep up on what they're doing and what they're not doing. So, all of those companies, Ex Libris, Westbow, Trafford, iUniverse, Author Solutions, it's all, or Author House, it's all part of Author Solutions. There's actually about 6 or 7 more that are them also. It's all the same company. If you go to Author House and look at a package, the publishing package, look at the same package on Ex Libris, look at the same package on Westbow, the only thing difference will be is the price. It goes up in price as you go to different ones. Westbow's the most expensive, even though it's exactly the same package, exactly the same stuff. So what do you get in the package? They'll start you out at, a cheap package, $7.99, $8.99, something along that line. They'll say they'll give you a custom cover and a custom interior design. That is kind of what this is. It's probably would be along this lines, but you pick out some of the design templates they're going to use, and then they will come back and tell you. They'll do a cover, but that's about it. So these companies, Author Solutions, Outskirts Press, Zulon, and selfpublishing.com, and there's some others. If anybody has a question about what I can tell you if it matches up with them or not. All these companies do sort of fixed packages. All the communication is by email. You don't get anyone to talk to in most cases. The only person you'll talk to is the person selling you the package up front. If you actually want to talk to somebody about your cover or your design, that's extra. You have to go to another package. So they will sell you, the main part of their package is design, cover design and interior design. It's so-so, in my opinion. All that work is done in the Philippines. It's done on a very fast basis. So you'll get a cover that's semi-unique. It won't be as bad as some of them I've showed you, but it won't really stand out. Yeah.
It's dog ear.
Dog ear. Yeah, they're in Indiana. They're actually pretty good. I would put them in this group, but it's sort of a notch above most of what they do. They do, if you're interested in some other people's opinions of publishing services, Dog Ear has a critique of all the other publishing services on their website.
Right.
Yeah, that's one of their big selling points. They'll tell you what's wrong with everybody else, just like I'm doing. But when I get done, I'll tell you what we do, and we don't compete in this area. We don't do this kind of thing. Kind of, but not quite. So all these services, you're going to get something, but you have to really be aware of what of all the upcharges are going to start tacking on. Everything you want, additional costs, additional. If you want, like I said, if you want to talk to someone about the cover design, that's an extra price. If you want something custom in the interior, like some call-outs, that's going to be more. If you want to put photos in the interior, that's going to be more. You want some marketing advice, that's more. You want, reviews. They have packages to get reviews. Their packages start at like $3,000. You can do it yourself not for free, but they'll charge you $3,000. And some of the things that they say on there are just way out of left field. So that's sort of these are the most popular ones. Author Solutions, the largest. They do like, I don't know, 30,000 books a year through all of their different imprints. They are now owned by the Putnam Group, part of the Big Six. They're actually now, Putnam's merging with Random House to become the biggest publishing company. Their selling point is, well, we'll look at your book and maybe we'll refer it to a real editor for publication. Nah. Yeah, it's not going to happen. So you mentioned you looked at Tate, Publish America, and Morgan James. All approach it from a similar way, with varying degrees of efficacy. Is that the right word? Yeah. Okay. You know what I mean. Publish America is absolutely by far the worst. If you look online and look for reviews on Publish America, everybody absolutely hates them. So, once again, this book was done by Publish America. The list price on this book is $29.95.
Oh my goodness.
Okay? If the author wants to buy copies of it for himself to sell to people, $21.
Oh, 20, that's hot.
Yeah. This book, if I printed 1,000 copies of this, $3? $3.25? What are you thinking, Trey? Yeah. So they don't charge anything up front. They control the price the book is sold at. And if you want to buy books to sell yourself, you get charged 40% off list, and the list is an outrageous amount. So you pay for it in the long run real steeply. And you sign a 7-year exclusive contract with them.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, you can't get rid of this for 7 years.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So that's Publish America. Tate isn't quite as extreme, but once again, they may charge an upfront fee, but they also charge a lot for the books, and you have to buy a certain amount of books. Morgan James is run by two guys who are big in the self-publishing area as being speakers and consultants. They're real big. They say, okay, we'll publish your book. We don't charge you anything up front. There's no hidden fees, no publishing fee. We'll pay you a royalty. Oh, by the way, you have to buy 3,000 copies of your book, and you have to pay for them at, I think it's $2 or $3 over manufacturing cost. Okay, so if you buy 3,000 copies at $2 over manufacturing cost, that's a $6,000 fee you've paid them. So although there's no hidden publishing fees, you're paying them because you are obligated to buy those 3,000 books. Once again, Tate does some things kind of like that. I've known some people that have used Tate. They've been in the business a long time. They used to be what was referred to as a vanity publisher, along with Dorrance, which dates me because most people don't know the difference. I mean, cheap, get something that's a book, kind of. That's all I can say about them. Book Trope. Book Trope is actually a Seattle-based company. They do it a little bit differently. There's no upfront fee. Everybody that goes, and they do the editing of the book, the design of the book, the marketing of the book, and everything else like a traditional publisher. But all of those people take a percentage of the sales. So if the book sells for $10, the editor gets $1, the marketing person gets $1, and so on. I have a problem with that because there's no incentive for them to really do a good job on your book because they know your book's only going to sell 100 copies. Okay, so they're just sort of rolling through them. Their books are okay, and if I was doing a fiction book that I wanted to get out, I would consider using them. But you've got to understand that you have to decide for yourself if you really think there's incentive there for them to actually do a good job on your book. I just don't know. That's sort of my issue with them. I just don't know if that percentage basis really is going to work. I've seen their books. They do a nice job, but not a great job. Greenleaf. Anybody has $50,000 they want to spend on their book? 50. Yeah. Their packages start at 30, but if you really want a good job, it's about 50 for design and editing, and that's about it. Yeah, same thing you're paying the other places. They do a really good job, and they actually get some bestsellers because when they go from 30 to 50, they're doing a whole bunch of extra marketing things, and they have things that will guarantee you bestseller status on Amazon for a day. Yeah, for a day. But that's okay. Then you're a bestseller on Amazon. CreateSpace. I mentioned that CreateSpace did a couple of these books. We're going to talk, when we're talking next week about designing your book and putting it up yourself, we're going to talk about CreateSpace. CreateSpace, there's actually two parts. One, they do sell design services just like all the other companies that we mentioned here. And they're about the same price as the iUniverses and Ex Libris and everybody else for the design services. But the good thing about CreateSpace is you can do all of your own design and put the book up for free and use them as a print-on-demand service, which then gets you distribution through Amazon and your books printed without having to warehouse them. So again, this book was done that way. It's got a nice cover because he had the cover designed himself, not using CreateSpace. He missed out on not doing proper layout on the interior, and hopefully next week we'll give you some hints as to how to avoid that. But you can do all that. You can do a book totally yourself, put it up through CreateSpace, have it for sale on Amazon today. But you still have to do all the work yourself. You still have to know what you're doing to get the book up there properly. The services they sell would be the same as going to any of the other companies I talked about and buying a package from them to do the design work. Their cover design, it's going to look like this. This is one of their books. Someone used their design services to do this book. The interior design and everything else. So this is a CreateSpace book, and this is a CreateSpace book. It's really what you do and how you control it. So this is a kind of a general overview. You've seen the good, bad, and the ugly in there. So yeah, questions about self-publishing services? Yeah.
So CreateSpace, if I want some copies of my book, do I have to pay retail on
No.
Amazon? No.
You pay manufacturing cost,
Okay.
which is 90 cents for the book plus a penny and a half per page. If you're getting a book like this, that's the manufacturing cost for this book. It's 90 cents plus a penny and a half per page. So a 300-page book will cost you $5.40. 90 cents plus $4.50 for the pages, so $5.40 plus shipping. So if it's a 300-page book, either 5.5, 8.5, or 6x9, limited trim size, white paper or natural paper, just a standard book paper, because they only do some very basic trim sizes. They do more than just those two trim sizes, but not many more. They only do two papers, a really basic white paper and a really basic natural paper or cream paper. For those things, it's 90 cents. So kind of consider that for the cover and binding, 90 cents, and then a penny and a half for every page inside it.
No photos.
So you can put anything in it you want. Yeah, they're not going to necessarily come out really well, depending on how you put them up. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you're putting up the text.
And that would be black and white?
That's black and white. Yeah, CreateSpace, I don't think, they still don't do color as far as I know. Lightning Source is another print-on-demand printer that we use, and they do color also. They do two types of color. Yeah. CreateSpace still does not, as far as I know, but Lightning Source does. And those, the prices are like $2. Trey, you can check and see if I'm wrong. If CreateSpace now is doing hardcover, last I knew they weren't. But it's like $2 for the book plus about a penny and a half per page. I'm missing something else in there too, depending on the type of case is on it. But it's a real basic hardcover book. It won't look like this. It'll only have stamping on here. It won't be on the spine. And usually it's a two-piece case, as I remember, which means that this along here is a different type of cloth. Yeah. Hardcover, that's a company called Lightning Source. You have to have your own ISBNs to go through Lightning Source, and they offer no design services. So you have to put up your file, and it has to be to their specifications. The good thing about them is that they're part of Ingram, the world's largest book wholesaler, and so your book is automatically distributed worldwide through Ingram. Actually, you have to pay $12 a year, but that's it's still part of it. So it's like $75 to put up the file, and then you pay for each book. If the books are ordered through Amazon, you never see it. It's just ordered and goes through directly. And I'll cover that a little bit. Yep.
So if Doggier's offering print on demand too, is that like?
So they're going to. Dog Ear will have their books printed by Lightning Source. Because there's only really two print-on-demand companies, CreateSpace and Lightning Source. So all the companies that offer, so all these other companies, iUniverse, Exlibris, everything up here that offers print-on-demand services, they're using Lightning Source. So if you just want to get your book printed, don't go through one of these services companies. Either go through CreateSpace or Lightning Source, okay, because they all use it. The reason that they can say they get worldwide distribution, because they're going through Lightning Source, it goes through Ingram. Okay, so we bypass that, we just go to Lightning Source. You can actually get worldwide distribution through CreateSpace, but it's a slightly higher fee. It's a little different.
According to the CreateSpace community forums, they do hardcover books, but only for sale to the author.
Oh, limited editions. Okay. Yeah, so I'm on a lot of LinkedIn groups about publishing, and it seems like every couple of months I'll see a question on one of the groups about, okay, who's a good print-on-demand vendor? So everybody will get on there and list all of these companies as print-on-demand vendors, okay? None of these are, this is the only one that's a print-on-demand vendor. The rest of them are publishing services that, yes, they do print-on-demand, but they use Lightning Source. If you want to just get your books printed and don't care about all these other design services and stuff that come along with it, you go drop it into a printer.
What about editing? I mean, I'm assuming since for me, I think that's...
Don't use any of these services for editing.
Okay, so get your own editor.
Get your own editor. Go direct to the editor. Look at, around here, I would post a job on the Northwest Editors Guild. I would post it on there. You'll get 2 to 10 responses, and they'll give you their resumes, their CVs as to what their experience is in editing. If something specific, you might be able to refer an editor to you. We don't do editing ourselves. We do copy editing, the final copy editing. We occasionally do some other editing in-house, but generally if it's developmental editing where you're really helping someone write the story, we refer them out. Dave Cragen, you know, who's around here, is an editor. He's edited some of the books we've done, but we use a lot of different editors, but we refer you out, and we don't get involved in that. Editing, you should never use a service. It's costly, and you're not going to get the quality.
And who was the person on the island?
On the island, Dave Cragen. Yeah. 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 And there's a lot of editors in this area. The Northwest Editors Guild is a good way to find them, or you can get referred to them by people. Yeah.
So Randy, I wanted to clarify, because I remember this from last year, so tell me if this has changed. But you've mentioned Lightning Source a few times, and it's not up there. And the reason it's not up there is because they won't deal with authors. They only will deal with publishing houses.
Right. Right. But as long as you buy your own ISBNs, everybody know what an ISBN is? Okay. Anybody who doesn't, it's this number in the back, the International Standard Book Number. It's not an ISBN number. My editor will shoot me if I say ISBN number, because that's redundant. Yeah. It's just like a PIN number. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Always buy them from the website called myidentifiers.com. myidentifiers.com. You can also find it by going to Bowker, B-O-W-K-E-R. Bowker owns My Identifiers, but My Identifiers is actually the website where you buy them. One will cost $100, $125. We never buy one, so 10 costs $250. 100 costs $575. Okay, always buy at least 10. And when you're filling out the information, make sure you make up a publishing name to put in for the name of the publisher. Don't put your own name, because that's what's going to show up every place as the publisher. Use your dog. I don't care what you do. You know, make up a name. This book is published under Lion Press. If you go to any of these companies, they'll sell you. You can use one of their ISBNs, but then your book will say CreateSpace on it, or Lulu, okay, as the publisher. If you buy an ISBN from them, it will still have their name in it somehow. And the problem is, if you buy it from them, you have no access to change the data that's associated with that. Because you're buying it through them, they control the data, and so you can't go in and change the data. Yeah, that's why you always go and buy it direct, even if you're going to go to CreateSpace. Don't buy it through CreateSpace. They'll make you a really good deal for it. It's like 60 bucks or 40 bucks or something. But if you buy 10 of them for $250, that's 25 bucks a piece. You're going to need multiple ones because your print book needs one, your hardcover book needs one, your ebook needs one, and at certain times different versions of the ebook need different ISBNs. If they're going to be sold in the same market, they have to have different ISBNs. The ISBN is what tracks the book through the market. You can't sell a book in a bookstore or to a library without an ISBN. You can sell it to your friends, they don't care. Bookstore or library won't take it. So set up your own publishing company by going to myidentifiers.com and buying a block of ISBNs. And when it says, what's the name of your publishing company, make something up.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
I've done a lot of research. Before you name your publishing company, Google it.
Yeah.
Tried to do a trademark search as well. I named a company and I did all that. Went, oh my goodness, someone's going to sue me. So
First thing you do is go to and see if you can get the URL for it.
yeah, well,
Just like any business name.
But Googling, because if someone is using that
Right.
name to do similar things that I do, they live in Minnesota or whatever,
Right.
and I publish this book, I'm going to get a letter from their lawyer.
No, you're not necessarily.
Well,
Not if they're doing business here.
Honestly, I'm a lawyer, so
Yeah, I mean,
felt
you could.
guilty about this,
Yeah,
complaining,
yeah.
it's sad.
yeah. But,
So
you
do
know,
your research before
yeah.
you name your company. That's
Yeah.
it.
but, yeah. But today, for marketing purposes, make sure you can get the URL you want to use with it also.
Yeah.
That's, you know, there's legal implications. You probably will want to set up some type of DBA for the business, because if you get checks in that name, you're going to go to the bank and they'll say, who's this? We don't know it. So you need a DBA. You don't need to consult your attorney and accountant, but you really don't need a separate company, but you need a DBA so you can deposit the money and do business as it. Yeah. Yeah.
If you try to get the URL and you can see it's already taken, then you don't even necessarily have to Google it. And then usually there's a who is
Right.
that
Yeah.
tells you who actually owns that URL.
You gotta buy it from them, but if
Yeah.
they know you want it, they'll want $4,000.
Well, I'm not talking about
Yeah.
that aspect.
Yeah.
So Randy, how does Publish Next work?
Okay, so I told you that we're not like this. Well, we are, but we're different. So we only work with authors who are very serious about doing their books. Most of our authors are have usually some type of business purpose for their book. We work with a lot of people from the National Speakers Association. We work with some pastors who are doing a book and are sort of expanding into some consulting area alongside it. We do work with some people who are just doing fiction books and just want a quality job done on their book. But generally we tend to do mainly nonfiction, and we will only work with someone who's had their book professionally edited. Especially if they're going to publish under our imprint, it has to be professionally edited. We won't take anything out of our imprints. So the imprint, as we were just saying, if you're buying your own ISBNs, you're creating your own imprint. The imprint is the name that goes on the back of the book. Most of these don't have them because nobody bothered to do it. So you're creating your own publishing company, you're creating your own imprint. Okay, we have 6 imprints, I think, or 7. I can never remember. So our main one that we publish sort of generically under, Sonia Lean's book that she published is From Alone to Aloha, is under Cedar Forge Press. That's our sort of generic one for general nonfiction. We have Engage Faith for faith-based books. We have Excite Kids, which should tell you what it is. Aeon Academic for academic books. Our newest one is Entrepreneur Publishing, not to be confused with Entrepreneur Press, because Entrepreneur Press is Entrepreneur Magazine, but Entrepreneur Publishing. And I'm missing Emissary Press, which is our nonprofit imprint. And it seems like there's another one, but it doesn't matter. So if you're going to publish with us, we can publish under one of our imprints, then you don't have to worry about getting your own ISBNs. It will give some legitimacy to it because they will see that other books have been published under that imprint. And so reviewers and bookstores will say, yes, there's books. Because we maintain the standard of those imprints by making sure that they are professionally edited and good cover design, etc., they don't get labeled as self-published, even though the author is paying for the publishing. It's author-subsidized publishing. Or we can help you set up your own imprint. And we do that for a lot of people. So we take care of getting the ISBN. We tell you what other things you need to do to really set up your imprint. We'll work with you to make sure that you get a logo that's going to work. We don't design the logo, but if you give us one, we'll tell you whether or not it's going to work on a book and so on. So probably about half of our authors actually create their own imprint, their own publishing company, and then we help them independently publish. We provide publishing services, everything from editorial all the way through production and marketing and distribution. We have packages, but we don't usually do a package. Basically what we do, custom cover design, custom interior design, setting up ebook conversion, and some basic book marketing things, making sure it's set up on Amazon and your ISBN data is all correct and it's available for distribution. Our basic package there is $2,500, which is a big step up from $729 for CreateSpace and Lulu, but we include a lot more stuff than they do, and everything we do is custom, and you actually get to talk to people. Pardon?
Is it printed through CreateSpace?
We can create we print either through Lightning Source, if you want to do print on demand, or we do short run printing, or we do printing offshore if it's high quality 4-color work, China, Korea. And we'll do the printing that matches up to the book. That's one of the other differences. All those other services, they only do print on demand. Maybe 25% of our books, 30% of our books are print on demand. Most of the rest of them we do short run. So we've been answering questions. So I'm going to run through real quick the difference between short run and you're a publisher. You got your books. You want to get them in bookstores so people can buy them. Okay, how do you get them there? Well, bookstore only carries about 10,000 books, so they're going to, like Eagle Harbor, they're not going to carry many books. They're going to buy the books from you at 20 to 30% discount, but what they really want to do is buy them from a wholesaler where they can get a 40 to 45% discount and place one order and get books from every publisher. Ingram is the biggest wholesaler, Baker & Taylor is the second biggest. The regional one out here is Partners West. They're both a distributor and a wholesaler. But as a small publisher, you cannot get your books into Ingram. You have to have 10 titles in print and $25,000 in sales. If you reach that, then what you have to do is go through a distributor who then sells the books to the wholesaler at 55% discount, and they take a 25% fee. Clear as mud, right? Or you can do print on demand. You don't print books ahead of time. You upload your file to Lightning Source or CreateSpace. They have these high-speed inkjet, or now they're also using some toner-based printers. They give the information about the book to the bookstore or online. When someone orders a book through Barnes & Noble or Amazon, the order for that is sent to CreateSpace or Lightning Source, and the book is printed and shipped out. So there's no books in stock. The books are printed the next day after the order and shipped out. Probably 80% of the books listed on Amazon are print on demand. When you get the book, the only way you will know that it's a print on demand, it was print on demand, is if you open it up and the back page is blank except for a barcode here. That's a print on demand book, because that's what matches up the text with the cover. The cover's always got the barcode on it. So when it's going through the process and these books are printed in 2 different places, when it gets to the binder to match them up, these 2 things happen. So the print on demand book always has this. Other than that, you don't really notice the difference.
I'm having a recollection, and I could be wrong, about Bing & Powell's in Portland. And that there was some kind of, what is that?
The espresso machine that prints it right there.
Yeah.
There's several of those around. Somebody in Seattle now has one. The problem is it's very expensive. It costs like $12 to print a book, and they have a very low. Yeah, it works, but it's very, very expensive. So where's the money go? $16.95 retail price for a book. If you're selling it through the book trade, which means through a bookstore or a wholesaler or online, they buy it from you at 55% discount. So you're only getting $7.63 for that book. Then you're paying, if you're with us, you pay 22% distribution fee. With most distributors, you pay 35%. We do 22% because we don't mess around and tell you that we're going to do some sales for you that no distributor will ever do on a book that by a one-time publisher. We just can't help you sell your book. You have to create the demand. We will make sure it's available, but you're creating the demand. It's going to cost you $3 to print it. You're going to have $1.25 into it for design. If anybody wants a copy of this whole presentation, just give me your card or take one of my cards and email me. You're going to do marketing, and you're going to have editing in it, so you're going to make a little bit of profit. Okay, the other option is don't sell it through the trade. Most of you who are doing a book for yourself, for your business, and are going to be selling the books directly, you're not going to worry about selling a lot of books on Amazon. You're trying to do it for something local as a promotional thing. In that case, you're going to sell it at something off the list price. So, you know, you're going to have it marked at $16.95, but someone comes into your store, you're going to sell it to them for 30% off. So you're going to sell it to them for 12 bucks. Makes them feel good. If you sell it to the local bookstore, you're going to actually sell it to them like that also. You might be able to get them to take it on consignment. You're still going to have some distribution costs because it costs you to warehouse the books, to ship them back and forth, and so on. So don't ever think you're going to, there's not some hidden distribution cost in there.
Okay, because yeah, Dog here says that you don't.
Right. They say they don't, because with print on demand, there's no distribution cost. Because the books that don't sit in a warehouse and don't get shipped, they get printed and shipped out directly. So there's no distribution cost. But the printing cost will be considerably more. This $3 book is going to cost you $5 or more to print on demand. So the printing cost eats up what normally would be the distribution cost. Especially, and those books are being sold over here. So instead of distribution, you're paying a higher cost for the printing. Much higher cost. Then you got the same design, marketing, editing, and you make more money. So you can make money selling the book yourself. But if you think you're going to make a lot of money selling books on Amazon, probably not. Because you got to really work at high volumes to do that. Most people forget about all the sunk costs they have in it, in design and marketing and editing and everything else. So how can you sell a book that without using a distributor? Like I said, direct sales at your business or on your website, and you fill those orders yourself. You can use Amazon and Barnes & Noble without going directly through the trade. You can use what's called Sell on Amazon, where you set up an account and you're a retailer there. If you're on an Amazon page, a book page, and it says available from Amazon and all these other sellers, you would be one of those other sellers. But you'd be the only seller listed because nobody else has access to the book. So the book's available just from you. Some people won't do it if it's not available, won't buy your book if it's not available from Amazon. But I'd say 95% of the people don't even notice. They just know they're buying it from you. Amazon takes care of the transaction. They take 15% plus about $1.50 for the transaction. So it's a lot cheaper, and that gets you the distribution fee that I showed before. Problem is, you may not be able to use all the Amazon sales tools, such as you're limited in how you can use some of the, get access to things like Author Central and some of the other tools that are much easier to use if you're actually selling through Amazon. You can use them, but it's just more difficult. You may be able to sell the books on consignment through the local bookstore. If you're a local author, and you go in and talk to Eagle Harbor or Liberty Bay, they may not want to, if they can't get the book through Ingram, they're probably not going to want to buy the books from you. Okay? They're going to want to buy the books from Ingram. so they can buy them. But they might, for a local author, take the book on consignment, which means if they sell the book, you get paid. Otherwise, they'll call you up and say, can you come and get your books and take them back home. They might do a book signing for you on the same basis, but most bookstores won't do a book signing unless they can buy the books from Ingram. You will not be able to get your book into Barnes & Noble if you don't go through a wholesaler. But you could always do ebook sales, and this discussion had nothing to do with ebooks, because ebooks are a whole different animal. So.
So how many of you are happy that we are recording this? Yeah. Like you might want to go back and revisit some of this kind of fire hose of information. So thank you very much, Steve Stolee, and we look forward to seeing the recording up. And thank you very much to Randy. And I'm sorry I won't